Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. This video, we are discussing more Doctor Who. Surprise, surprise. We're on series 13 at the minute. This is what's currently airing. So we've just had we're on Tuesday, aren't we? We're on Doctor Who Day, Tuesday, the 23rd of November. Well, hey! I didn't intentionally mean to line these up, but it's a happy coincidence. And yeah, we're talking about the latest episode of Series 13, latest episode of Doctor Who Flux, Village of the Angels. It's episode 4 of the 6-part event that I think keeps getting advertised. And yeah, it sees our trio, Yaz, Dan, and the Doctor, be taken to some creepy village at night in the 1960s. The Weeping Angels make a triumphant return, I would say. We get some interesting tidbits about what's going on with the Doctor. We get some interesting setups for the last 2 episodes. We get a pretty decent story, I think, in terms of Weeping Angels. A couple of nice twists in there. And yeah, overall for me, I thought it was a pretty solid episode. Rewatching it again, I thought, yeah, this is pretty good. Sometimes I was like, oh yeah, we've still got that to come, but I just think that's just the case when you know what's coming. You kind of think, oh yeah, that's still coming up. So what do you think of it?
Yes, I really enjoyed it as well. It was cool to see them kind of put the Weeping Angels front and center again for the first time in a little bit. Yeah, I think they were used pretty damn well. We will get on to that. Shocking. And yeah, some really interesting twists and turns, like you said. Some ties to Division that I was not expecting, with like the Weeping Angels themselves, more so than even just the Doctor stuff. And yeah, a couple of side stories going on, provided some interesting stuff as well. Yeah, it was a really good episode yet again. I'm still trying to weigh up in my mind if I preferred it or not to last week. I'm not sure yet. Joyce it out. Maybe as we discuss it, I'll kind of try and. My rating is in flux at the minute. So, it was, I think, still a good standout episode for Flux. It's nice to see that seems to be the case still for now on the internet. So that's fun. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one quite a bit. It was very, very good.
Yes, I thought the same. I think I didn't even think about my rating before I've got a rating, but I didn't compare it. So I think, judging by what I've put, I prefer it to last week. Okay. I was sort of concerned because it seemed to me like it's going to be another standalone story, similar to the Sontaran one, which wasn't necessarily my favorite for that reason. However, the inclusion of the Division storyline, I think, did bump it up a little bit for me. Got some good guest characters, some good guest actors, some others that were the characters at least weren't great, but we'll come on to them. And yeah, this episode was pretty good, I thought, and again, I think the 4 episodes so far have had a pretty strong run, which is good. I say it's a good start as if we're at the start of the series, but it's we're 4 episodes in, we're 2/3 of the way through. So yes, we're getting towards the end with only 2 episodes of the series left, and I think this definitely did set up the finale-esque, I guess, with what happened at the end, which we'll come on to. Yeah, as with all of our review videos, we do 3 positives and 3 negatives. I'll throw in my first positive first, and it is Jericho / Kevin McNally, however you say it.
Right. Okay.
Because I was watching it back. I was like, I just think he's a really great actor. I like him in the role. I like his character and how like nothing phases him, because he's just looking at it from a scientific lens, and he's just so curious as to what's going on. He takes it all in his stride. He never feels like an unwanted addition, like someone that's just there, which I think helps, which could be the case with some of the other characters. And I mean, I think he gets a lot of screen time, and I think from judging by the next time trailer that he put out and a couple of pictures, he's back for next week as well. So I hope that maybe he's in till the end of the series. because he's a good actor. Obviously, he's quite a, I would say, quite a get for the show, considering sort of his CV in terms of big Hollywood films. Obviously, most people will know him as Gibbs from the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise.
Mhm.
So he's a fairly big guest star, and I think that comes across in his acting. You get the big guest star actor to do big acting, and I think it works. Um, and yeah, I just thought he was a good addition. One of the more interesting guest casts we've had. And of the guest cast, I think he obviously stood out the most because, to be fair, there isn't many, but there's obviously real life reasons as to why there's not many guest cast.
Yes.
But I think he was definitely the highlight for me, and a welcome addition, something that I didn't really see coming, which is very good.
Eustachius.
Yes, that's why I said Jericho, because I didn't want to fluff his first name. But yeah, he's great. I hope we get to see more of him next week, and I hope he's not just pushed to the side now that sort of his story might be done. But we'll see what happens. So what is your first positive?
The cliffhanger.
That's my second.
Hey, potentially one of my favorite Doctor Who cliffhangers of all time. Thinking on it, if someone had said that was how they were wrapping things up when the episode started, I would have said, "Get out of here, you
Yeah.
swine." But yeah, I loved how that all kind of tied together. I think the fact that I wasn't expecting too much like division connections and stuff, it just completely then throws the curveball of how that all happens. How exact, like why and how it all unfolds and why she's a statue now. I'm not quite sure, but I think the visual of the Doctor being a weeping angel now, for little kids, I think that would be absolutely terrifying for one. But it's just such an unexpected position to kind of have the Doctor be in like that, because she's in peril a lot. Episode 1, the cliffhanger with the Flux, like getting into the tires, whatever. She's in peril there. Be like, well, that'd be fine. And then we had like Yaz and Linda in peril. Like, yeah, that'd be fine. It's not, it wasn't the Doctor in danger. She'll fix it. And then we had this, and you're like, holy shit! Okay, but now what? And I think that's such a cool kind of position to be placed in. So I genuinely don't know how that's going to get fixed. I'm sure it will be quite something if she's just a weeping angel now. But yeah, I love that kind of idea of the Doctor kind of becoming one of her most famous villains, really, and the wider kind of implications of the fact that it's her being recalled into division. It's not just she's been turned into a whipping angel. There's some kind of wider story to it, which I really enjoyed. Yaz and Dan were a bit useless against the whipping angels in this one, so you're kind of like, well, what the fuck are you going to do about this? Like, you're trapped in 1907 or whatever year it was now with Eustachius and the little girl. Out of all the stuff we've gotten so far, I think this was really like, I do not know how they're going to get out of this. I do not know what's going to happen next. And just visually, it was such a great moment to end on. So yeah, I adored how the cliffhanger ended off. It's a very, very good one.
Yeah, especially because, like, in the next time trailer, in the trailer that's out so far, you don't see the Doctor not as the weeping angel. So it's like,
yeah,
okay, so what's going to happen then? Because sometimes when the next time trailer comes out, it's like, oh yeah, everyone's fine, and you see everyone in the trailer back to normal. But yeah, you don't see that this time. So maybe it could be a Doctor Light episode for all we know.
Yeah.
And she could be stuck there to the finale. I doubt that'll happen. And yeah, it's interesting. I think it's an interesting cliffhanger purely because of the amount of speculation and questions it opens up. So it could be that this cliffhanger is a bit like, oh, once we get those answers, it'll all depend on how the answers go, I think, to how this cliffhanger is remembered.
Yeah.
And so that'll be very interesting. On the rewatch, it did look like the angels were like projecting themselves, or like, stuff was moving towards her and then up in, and then up and then transformed.
Yeah, kind of like all glowy and stuff, weren't they?
Yeah. So I think that maybe they did something rather than she was always a weeping angel or whatever it is. But
I don't think she was always one.
No.
Might have been.
Well, you never know. But yes,
We'll
so it could be that maybe the weeping angels have like trapped her in that form to transport her easily. If she's been arrested, kind of thing. Maybe that's how they arrest people. And yeah, it will just be very interesting to see how it all ties up more than anything. It's just a thing that you never thought was going to happen just like being captured by the Weeping Angels is one thing, that's a cliffhanger in itself, being stuck. We've seen that happen before, but being sort of turned into one with your companions, like watching on in horror in a different time, knowing that they
Yeah.
can't even get there.
Mm.
And they've not got any way out. It's not like, they could just run back to the TARDIS because that's in a completely different time. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens moving forwards. And I think that's why the cliffhanger is like definitely one of the best, because obviously they're like, oh, every episode's going to have a cliffhanger. And they've kind of been like, oh, next time. But this one was the one that was kind of like, this feels like the first part of the finale.
Yeah.
Which I think is the big thing. The angel still in the TARDIS, fine. That's just like that's a Titanic crashing into the TARDIS. It's just a cheeky setup, not really a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
The snap, obviously, we've discussed the problem with that, and that was only enhanced with the start of the last episode. And then what was the first? Oh, the flux come into it, wasn't it, for the first one? And then that one didn't necessarily get
They
solved.
kind of skipped over the impact of that one a bit.
Yeah, they're like,
strange.
oh, we're out the TARDIS. I thought, oh, okay then.
Yeah. Oh, we've been flung through time. Okay, cool. We'd like to have seen it though.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think this is definitely the strongest cliffhanger so far. We'll see what happens next week. And yeah, it's just so interesting to see where it comes up. So many questions, so many theories, and I'm excited to see what happens next. In that case, what's your second positive?
Yes, the Weeping Angels.
They're my third.
What?
Yeah.
I love those creepy fuckers. It was great to see them be front and center again as like the main antagonist. I'm glad it doesn't happen all that often. But when they show up, they show up good. And yeah, I liked all the different uses we got of them. Kind of some of the different things that they're capable of, really. Like seeing what happens if you get got by one twice. Obviously what they did to the Doctor at the end. And yeah, spooky boys. I like them kind of using Eustatius's voice against him and kind of taunting him with all of that.
Voice.
Yeah, and we've kind of seen them do something similar in Time of Angels and stuff. It's kind of a nice advancement of that in a way, because they can seemingly do it without ripping out his voice box now, which is probably something he'd prefer. So that's probably the best. And yeah, like the visuals of them like coming out of the TV and being on like the edge of the village and stuff, and like there's like a big ass galaxy right there. It's just that visually, I think they're really interesting and really well shot like that. I love the sequence in a tunnel. I loved it just as much the second time around. With you could just see all the arms kind of sticking out and then they're like emerging. There's some really cool, unique stuff with them, which I think you kind of need to do when you bring something back again. Especially when it's like, well, this is the concept of the Weeping Angels. Like, how far can you really push that? I like that they did find some different interesting ways of having them be the antagonists. They really leaned into the vindictive side of them, I think, in this one. And also brand new was, a lot of this group were hunting down one particular angel. They were part of the division and stuff. So that was very interesting as well. So I would have been happy enough, I think, to just have a Weeping Angel episode. I'm like, oh, well, it's been a while. It'd be fun. But the fact that they then had this whole division twist to them, and I think the fact that they can rope the Weeping Angels into their cause as well just shows like division's power in a really interesting way. And again, it's showing you that, it's not telling you that, which I'm quite appreciative of as well. So it's some good storytelling with them. But yeah, creepy as ever, very well shot, very intimidating, very scary. And I really enjoyed them being the antagonists of the episode.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it helps that it's like a nighttime sleepy village vibe. It definitely adds to the tension of it all. I have an issue with them, not necessarily them, but with like characters around them, but I'll come on to that in the negatives. But yeah, they had a wide range of skills, I guess, that were showcased, from coming through to the TV to turning off lights to being on fire when they're drawings, which is a nice one. Obviously using other people's voices, like acting using humans as a sanctuary as well is obviously a key one. How they talk to each other is obviously telepathically, which is why they can project thoughts into Peggy's head and all that kind of stuff. I saw somebody was like, concerned that, oh, what do you mean they can't zap you twice? They've already got zapped twice. But you went back. But the argument there is that, well, because he got rescued and created the paradox, that first time didn't ever happen. So technically it was his first time when he got zapped. In Angels Take My Hand.
And there might be a difference of the angel touching you and you touching the angel, because the old people, both times they're like, ooh. So maybe there's a difference there. Maybe. Or, I don't know.
Maybe, but I could deal with that. You could say that maybe it was
doesn't bother me.
Different angels do different things. That's fine. Because we know that not always, if they touch you, they have to send you back. We've seen that before when they just snap necks and they're like, okay, bye, see you later. So that doesn't bother me. But yeah, they were very creepy, the tunnel especially. And when it panned out and it's like, oh, I think that's how they got there. And all these like half angel bodies are like coming out of that stone slab. It was like, oh, okay. I think they could have taken it a step further and gone with like most things that were stone were angels. I think they kind of tried to do that when she like sonics that rock that comes through the window, because I think that's a bit of a strangeness. Like, well, why is she sonicking the rock? It's a rock, but like if they maybe made something that like the stone itself was weeping angels, and then maybe like diversified them that just from being angels, that could have been interesting. Maybe they would have done that if they had a full series, because this could easily have been a 2-parter if they wanted it to be. But yeah, it was good. I liked what they did. I imagine we'll see them next week, given the cliffhanger ending. But yeah, very, very interesting to see. A good return for them, because we haven't seen them for a good 10 years, 9-10 years,
9-ish, I think.
Yeah, great stuff, loved it. And hopefully we'll get a little bit more if they ever come back again, which I'm sure they will eventually.
Yes.
So then, what is your third positive?
I've gone for the ties to division, the unexpected twists and turns.
That's my
comes with that.
Fourth division stuff. Yeah.
Again, I just kind of came into it, and I would have been fine with it, expecting just a run-of-the-mill Weeping Angel episode, not much to it. And then, hello, Doctor Weeping Angel, and this rogue angel was part of division, is now on the run, and kind of gives the Doctor in its place. And the fact that Weeping Angels are part of division, we kind of learned that the division use anything and everything from that, because this Weeping Angel had all this knowledge, and there's a tease there of the Doctor getting some answers, but then she gets turned into an angel. So yeah, I like that. It just makes this story kind of even more, I think, cohesive and self-contained, that there are elements of it in everything. I think it's very rewarding to the viewer then to watch every single episode, because like this, you might get some really unexpected ties to it. I think it was a very unique kind of twist in the tale, really changing up the formula of like, okay, the Sontaran one was kind of more standalone-ish when it came to the Sontarans and their ties. They kind of took advantage of the Flux, that's about it. But for this to be tied to the division stuff rather than just the Flux stuff, I thought was a nice, interesting kind of twist on the tale. And it feels like we've got a bit more information on it. And it's just more of the promise, like answers are going to be coming at some point. And they're kind of advancing that a bit by putting the Doctor in the situation she's in. So yeah, I really liked how they advanced the story in that way, especially when I thought, we've got so much division stuff in the last one, they're probably going to leave off on answers probably until like the finale now at this point. But that's kind of the good thing with Doctor Who, I guess, is that they do throw these curveballs every now and again. They can afford to space out some answers when it's a 6-part story, because there's still a lot we don't understand, obviously, and there's probably even more questions from this episode alone. So they can afford to drop a few bombshells like that. So I really liked that they really switched up the episode, gave it a lot more meaning than just being a simple standalone thing, which I think still would have been great and still would have worked. But having division ties in there was a very cool twist.
Yeah, I think the same. I didn't think it would be anything, but then before the episode, they put out 2 spoiler warnings. I was like, oh well, something's going to happen. But that, I didn't really, I didn't really have any expectations going into it. It's just, yeah, it's a strange thing. It'll be good to look back at this once the whole storyline is finished, if it gets finished. Of what the division are exactly. What their aims are, because it sounds like they're just some Time Lord group that do time stuff. There's not been any kind of, are they like the, like, I don't know, the police of the Time Lords? So they go around fixing things and stopping things. Is it what the Doctor's always been doing? But there was a group that used to do it a little bit, dodgy. Were they? It's going to be an interesting way to see how they play it off. But I do like that it's not just like every 3 episodes you get a little bit, and then you get a little bit, and then you get all of it.
Yeah.
I like that it includes it, and it also opens up the possibilities that, like we said, that they could do team ups with the Doctor working with the Weeping Angels, the Doctor working with Sidemen if there's Sidemen division. There could be loads of team ups with the Doctor and monsters now because of this. So it could be interesting to see how it works. And I sort of have a theory, sort of about the division. It's because obviously Belle and Vinda returned in this episode. And Belle witnesses Azure. Wow, I don't think she knows it's Azure because she can't see very far. But a woman and a passenger take some people. And I noticed in that Belle's like, oh, on my last assignment or on my last thing, I had to deal with passengers, or I was, and something like that, which makes me think that maybe she's one of the 2 people who we never see in the Doctor's squad. Maybe
right.
Yaz, or I expect Yaz or Vinda. Maybe Vinda is actually Vinda in that memory.
That'd be funny.
And then Yaz is Belle, because I think it leaves enough in those scenes to imply that she's dealt with them before, and maybe it was dealing with Swarm and Azure, because she doesn't see what Azure is. She doesn't see it's her. She says whatever she is she's not helping. She never says it's, oh, that's Azure. Blah, blah, blah. So it could be interesting. It could go nowhere. It could just be me thinking too much into it. But I guess that's the whole point of it.
That's what they want you to
week
do.
to week is you look at it and you think, what about it? And there's all these rumors that maybe Vinda and maybe they're Time Lords, and maybe they will, and who knows. But that's just a theory I had that could be a division-esque thing. But yeah, they're turning out to be very interesting, and I will kind of be gutted if this whole storyline gets thrown by the wayside after Chibnall leaves, because I think there's a lot you could do with it. But I also think Russell is a smart enough writer to, if he wants to use it and thinks there's a decent story, we'll take from it.
Yeah.
Because he oversaw 4 pretty successful years of Doctor Who, drawing in new stuff and old stuff, so I'm sure he could do it again pretty easily. If not, give me some books. I'll happily read some books on the division and the Fugitive Doctor's run. Why not?
They could do like a Time Lord Victorious-esque event again with like some division stuff. It
wouldn't surprise me if they do, to be fair. But yeah, that's it for the positives, unless you had any sort of additional ones you wanted to touch on.
I very much enjoyed Eustachius as well, I must say. He was a surprising amount of fun. I felt I really enjoyed the actor's performance and everything. So yeah, I'd give it a shout out to him as well.
Yeah, fair enough. So we'll go on to the negatives now. And my sort of first one, which I noticed a little bit, is that there's inconsistent watching of the Weeping Angels. So there are times, particularly when the 3 of them are in the basement, where one blinks and then another blinks. I'm like, that's fine, because they never really blink at the same time, but they're not talking saying I blink. If they had a thing saying was alternate blinking or whatever. And then when they're in the head thing, it's pretty implied that Jericho's looking at his little monitor and then looks up to look at the TV. So I'm like, so why haven't they moved while he was looking there? So there were times when I was like, you make a big deal about watching them, but sometimes the main characters aren't even watching them when they need to be. Sometimes they'll both look away and look back, and it will still be there. Again, maybe that's the Weeping Angels playing games. You could write it off as they're making them think they're safe, especially when they're with Yaz and Dan and trying to make them go to a certain place or whatever. There's that argument, but at the same time, a line maybe saying, like, I'll blink and you blink. People don't blink for quite a long time in this, which I'm like, Can you really not blink for that long? Is that possible? I know you keep cutting away from them, but that doesn't mean that they've stayed
Yeah.
open the whole time. But it's not like the whole plot was based around blinking and not blinking like Blink was. So I can kind of let it slide because it's not the point of the episode. But when the first thing that they say when you see Weeping Angels is, oh, don't blink kind of thing, it's then a bit like, oh, well, does it matter? You're not paying that much attention to it, clearly.
Yeah.
But that was just something I noticed again, and it's something that I can overlook and be like, oh, maybe they were, maybe they were watching, and it's fine. But just something that nagged me a little bit more than anything.
Yeah.
But yes, so what is your first negative?
The mid-credit scene.
That's my third one.
Not necessarily the scene itself. It just doesn't need to be a mid-credit scene.
No.
I don't think it justifies it because I'm just like, it's an okay scene.
My god, that cliffhanger! Oh, what?
Yeah. Like, okay, so he kind of may have an idea where she is.
Yeah,
great, but we kind of already knew he was looking for it. It didn't feel like it added that much. They could have just put that in the main episode and then ends on the cliffhanger.
Or just had, I saw this man on this planet and he said you went here, and then there you go.
Yeah, it was just a very, very odd choice, especially after such a big cliffhanger of all the episodes that have like a mid-credit sequence. Yeah. This felt particularly strange and bizarre. And like the scene itself is fine. I don't think it adds necessarily that much anyway. But its placement, I just don't think was justified as a mid-credit thing. I can't understand the reasoning behind doing it when they could have just put it in the main episode, and I think it would have flowed a lot better that way. So I think you're kind of just highlighting how just okay that scene is by putting it in like the middle of the credits. And it's a neat idea and everything. I wouldn't mind them doing something different with it, because with the flux and stuff, I like that the titles were getting all messed up as it happened. But of everything to focus on, it felt weird. Maybe have a scene with the Zero or something, continuing on her little thing, or we get an appearance from Swarm in the mid-credits scene. I don't know.
Victorian man, he never made an appearance.
Victorian man, yeah. So yeah, it just felt very strange. I didn't mind the scene itself. It's just having it be a mid-credit scene, I think, was completely futile. So that's kind of my big issue. It really takes it out of the cliffhanger, I think. Especially because it's not all that long after the credits roll. It then does this. It's just a very strange choice.
Yeah, I mean, Doctor Who credits aren't very long in the first place. So it's not really, you can't really have the mid-credit. It's just why they always put the trailer at the end, because it's not that long to wait. It felt a bit tacked on, I think is the word I used. Just because, it just doesn't fit. You've had this big cliffhanger, like, oh my god, wow, what's happening? And it's like, oh yeah, Vinder, yeah, he's about still, okay. That's cute. Is that it? I get exactly what you mean. I think maybe they could have either put it earlier on in the episode. I'm sure there would have been a spot for it, but you don't want to lose the tension, because I think that was a little bit that they might have lost or realized that they were losing every time they cut back to Belle. Just put it in the start of next week, or whenever they reunite, because obviously they're both in the next time trailer. You both see them next week, so it's like, we'll put it in there. Or you don't even really need it. Like I said, just say, I ran into a guy I went to so-and-so looking for you, and this guy said, if I saw you to tell you this kind of thing, which would be fine. But I guess they just needed Neil from New Betweeners to do something more, because they paid him for that, and then he was only in it for a little while. He might come back. He might, but I don't see why he will. Unfortunately.
Although I've already said that about characters that we now know are coming back.
Yeah, we both said that
about
said that about the Grey Serpent, but here we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, it was a little bit unnecessary, I think. Not the scene itself, but the placement more of it, I think, because it was nice to see Vinder sort of get the new message from his life partner, which they were very, very. They put it definitely into life partner, which again leads a little bit of a hint towards maybe a Time Lord regeneration side of things, and the fact that they're not husband and wife or husband and husband and that kind of thing. So interesting, but it's just a bit out of place. So in that case, what's your second?
Yes. Mine do kind of bleed into each other, I guess, a bit,
Uh-huh.
my second and third, because they kind of their problems are kind of what and they come as a pair, basically. But I just felt like there were a few extra plots
Yes,
that didn't
I've
need to happen
I've put
and
it's a
took
little
away from
convoluted.
and took away from other things.
Yep.
I like the twist of that creepy woman being a little girl grown up.
Hmm.
I just don't think they need it.
Hmm.
It seems strange to me, especially because we have done that with the Weeping Angels before with Billy and stuff. And, it's not like particularly groundbreaking territory for the Weeping Angels. Um, but everything with like having the little girl around and stuff, I'd rather it just be Yaz and Dan doing their business. The Weeping Angel can still talk to them and give them the exposition that they needed. So I don't know why we necessarily needed the little girl and why we needed this woman to very badly try and get people to leave the village, because that just basically came to nothing anyway.
Yep.
And then on top of that, that then leads to her great uncle or her whatever her guardians
The
were
most
in
annoying
relation
people
to
in
her.
this episode. Yep.
Yeah. And then that led to sort of scenes with them. And again, do we really need them to be in it? I just feel like there are more things in the episode that could have gotten more focus, and instead we got this that I feel like they just didn't need to put in there. I think sometimes this era does introduce just too many characters that don't need to actually be in part of the plot. And I think this is kind of a key example of that. And the fact that Flux has so few characters, I think makes it all the more obvious when it does happen. I'm like, maybe it will be justified later on down the road and meet that little girl and creepy woman visited again. I very much doubt it, but I just think that was easily 5-6 minutes of screen time you could have cut all together to make the episode a bit shorter, maybe a bit pacier in that respect, or give that screen time to putting the mid-credit scene in there so it's not a mid-credit scene and weird, or focusing on some aspects that probably may have been a bit undercooked at this point in the story in this episode. So yeah, that's what I've gone for.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So my sort of third one is obviously that some are a little convoluted. My sort of main one is like, so they take the village out. They do the quantum extraction, which takes the village out of time and place, right? But it takes the village out of time and place from 1960s and 1901. So I think having that sending people back to the past aspect hindered them a bit in terms of they now needed to do two villages. It gives them the nice shot of day and night and that kind of thing, and it separates the characters. But it's like, why is there two? Why did the Weeping Angels need two villages? But the Weeping Angels always in this village, and they were always using it as a hunting ground. And these Division Angels are new ones coming in, or did they just have to take is every instance of that village connected like that? Or did they just take out those two time periods? But then why take out the second one if no one you need is there? I get maybe, get rid of everyone in that village so you can then in 61 take back people that aren't relevant, and then you eventually whittle down who you need. But then why are they connected? Why have they been extracted? And then why don't we see that, that edge in the other place? I know, they don't get much time to explore the 61 village, but why don't we see that boundary on there if that's been extracted? So yeah, it's a little bit confusing in terms of, has this, because also you've got the rogue angel who, although being in the head of the girl, projected itself into the TARDIS at the same time to bring them there. Bring them there because maybe it must have known that the angels were coming for it, so it was like, I need to get the doctor type of thing. But that, I don't think that's necessarily explicitly said.
And the fact and how it even got into touch with the whole connection to Yaz, I feel like they just glossed over that. And
because is it the one was it in, maybe you could argue that, and maybe it'll get explained. Maybe
it appeared out of her phone, didn't it? In the TARDIS,
but you could think you could think that maybe it took advantage of time going haywire to jump into the time stream, into Yaz's memories or Yaz's time stream. And then, because obviously I assume the angels can just time travel at will by the looks of it. So maybe it just jumped into her memories, then from there jumped to her phone, and then when she was back in reality, went through there. But that's not explained. That's us making that.
It just felt like they didn't even address that at all, like how it even got there. It felt a strange admission to not even mention it in passing.
Yeah. So take out the angel references from last week. It's not really necessary, and then make it clear what the rogue angel has done and why there are two villages. Because if the only people that die in this one are the two looking for the daughter, just kill them normally. You don't need to send them back in time to a second village. But I guess they wanted Stan and Yaz to see the Doctor turn to an angel, so you could get that reaction. By the writers maybe. But yeah, it's just a little bit muddled, and it could have done with a little bit of fine tuning in terms of the progression as to how we ended up with, I guess, village backed onto each other.
Yeah.
But maybe that'll get explained next week. Maybe they'll say, because they're obviously not in the same place next episode, so maybe it'll get explained what happened. Maybe after the angels left, they put them both back. Maybe, who knows? We'll eventually. I hope we'll find out. But yeah, it was just a little bit all over the place. It could have done with a little bit of tweaking. But we'll know when the Target novel comes out. It's fine.
Yes, the very, very long Target novelization.
Yeah, exactly. The big hardback like they've just done. But yeah, so what is your third then negative?
Yes, so we had, I think, a few extra plots that probably we didn't need, and then I felt like my third one is like some stuff felt a bit underdeveloped and undercooked in this one. Or I'd have liked to have seen more of it, not necessarily, because obviously they may continue to explore this, but at this point in the story, I feel like I wish we'd gotten more of certain elements. So Azor was the big one. I'm glad they finally gave her something. But again, it was an interesting idea, like her being the savior to this planet of people, all these like survivors of the Flux. Tune in next week for that episode. But when you're like, oh, they could have cut that out, they could have swapped this around, there could have been some extra time here. I felt like we could have spent more time with that idea. So I feel like there's not really going to be something that's necessarily visited again, because it was more so set up to get Belle to sod off and try and help out. So again, it just felt like that's an interesting idea, and that could provide some really good stuff for Azure. But then very quickly just make it all about the passenger, and then it's more so Belle's story than Azure. And yeah, I just think that idea of her going off doing her own little things could have had a lot more exploration, but I feel like they're probably just done with that now because it was more so a means to an end. But when I feel like there was stuff they could have probably removed in this episode, that kind of stood out to me. And I also kind of wish we got more to do with the Claire thing. I'm not sure her being in episode 1 was justified from this. I feel like it didn't really need to be a thing that happened. She could have just been from 1967 and an angel chose her for whatever reason or something. I don't know.
Oh, I've seen you before, and the Doctor would be like, what? Yeah, in my mind, kind of thing.
Yeah, that would have been all right. So I kind of thought when we saw in episode 1, she was from like the far future. She'd been sent back there already, and then she got sent back again. Obviously, she probably would have crumbled and turned to dust in that case, but with these rules for the angels. But the fact that it was just like, oh yeah, I got visions of you.
Yeah, visions, because the angels inside me, I was shown these things. Like, okay.
It felt like they had that idea. They wrote episode 1, they wrote Claire in it, like, okay, we'll revisit that when we do the Weeping Angel episode in a few weeks. And then when they sat down to write, they're like, oh shit, I didn't actually think like how we're going to do that. Well, psychic. So I don't know, it felt a bit like, oh, okay. I like the visual of her like having the wings and the angel being in her mind or whatever. The idea that just having a premonition of an angel kind of then became an angel and stuff. I think that's kind of an interesting idea. Because you don't even want to like think of about them.
Is that true? Because
that's the thing, because it's very convoluted again. I'm not sure
the doctor says that, but then when she speaks to it says, I chose this person, which makes me think that the angel was always there and she didn't see the angel and then it appeared. It was just that was the angel showing her the things. That's what I thought it was.
But then it's just like, well, but she also saw the doctor, she saw the TARDIS, she knew what it was and stuff. So she did have those premonitions. So surely then that should have become an angel, if anything that holds the image of an angel. So again, that's just tying into the whole convoluted thing. and could have used some more exploration and screen time, I guess. Because I just felt this is the bulk of what we're going to get with Claire in this episode, and I just don't know if it was worth having her in that first episode, especially when there was so much thrown at you in that first episode. Did we really need that again? This is kind of what I was saying in episode 1, like as the story goes on, our ratings and views of things are going to obviously change depending on how they get paid off, if they get paid off. And I sadly think I'm going to look back on the Claire thing as like, well, it was there, it was fine, but I think they could have done more with it. So just a few elements like that in the episode that I think could have been explored a bit further. And I think it's only a real issue for me at this point, because at this point in the story, I wish we had more for Azor already. I wish the Claire stuff had paid off immediately in more of a significant way with this one. And because there were things I felt could have been cut out, it just made it a bit more of it's like, oh, they could have had some more focus on that and stuff. But, it's what it is.
I think it might have been better if Claire, when they met her in present day, was after this event. That might have made a bit more sense. Like have her be from 61 and have her somehow, maybe the angel itself takes them to the present day. I don't know, but I think that would have been better because it would make more sense, I think. And then you don't have to worry about it being convoluted in terms of how the angel got there and how she sees things and that kind of stuff.
And the fact that the angel in that first one, the other one, was like hunting her down because they wanted the angel that was inside her. It just felt a bit weird that it would then just send it away. I'm like, well, I've sent it about as far away from me as it can get.
That's what makes me think, did that angel send it to the past or did it send it to the extraction site? Because it could know that, right, I need to send this to 61 because that's where we're going to take it out of time and space and get it.
Yeah.
But that might get explained this week or next week, sort of saying, hey, here's what the plan was. But then also, I don't know if it necessarily says that angel, that it was hunting her, but I don't know if it necessarily says that angel exactly was Division or if the ones that are in the village are. So, as we said, a bit convoluted. But if it gets explained, then hey, it's no longer convoluted.
Hooray.
But we'll see.
Yes.
Yeah. So did you have any other sort of negative points you might have wanted to hit on?
I think that's everything.
Fair enough. I think that's sort of it for me. There's obviously a couple of questions remaining. Why did the Doctor get turned into an angel? What kind of impact is that going to have? What does it mean? What even are the angels? It's thrown open the whole, are they Time Lords? Do the Time Lords turn fugitive Time Lords into the angels and then make them do their bidding? Is that what they're going to turn out to be? Because we don't know the origin of them yet. It's always been speculated that they could be something to do with the Time Lords because of references made in End of Time. But maybe we'll get those answers, but maybe we won't. Some people will argue it's better not to know and it's better not to have that kind of backstory, but tough. I like having the backstory and stuff. I like having the history and the lore sort of things in a universe because then it feels less surface level. It feels more deep, and I've always felt that way, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Doctor Who, whether it's Marvel. I like having the details to sort of think, oh, that's a cool thing, but it will just depend on how cool those details are, I think. But yes, I think that's it for our positives and negatives. Even though it's only 2 days after the air date, have you got any fun facts?
I do have some fun facts. Fun facts. All 4.
Oh my god.
Yes, that's right. We have one more than last week, I think. But yes, much like the Halloween apocalypse, this episode shared its broadcast date with its saying, this being on the 21st of November, which is the day it aired. Although in this case it is primarily set in 1967, whereas
primarily
was set. Yeah, that's fair. It was primarily set. Stop doubting my fun facts, you bastard. This is the second Doctor episode to feature a mid-credit scene, the first one being Death in Heaven in 2014. There had also been a post-credit scene in Face the Raven.
Oh, yeah, Death in Heaven. Is that the one where he's on the iPad and he goes, oh, which is the one where he's in this, where he's in the thing and the iPad like moves and it sees the boy behind him.
Is that how that ended? That's just how Dark Water ends, yeah.
Oh, okay then.
because they do.
Right.
Yeah, they do the shot of the Cybermen. And you're like, oh, it's going to be the cliffhanger, and then it just does that. And like, oh, okay,
Oh,
that's the cliffhanger.
yeah. So like this episode then. Oh, cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, basically that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one in Death in Heaven, that's the one with Santa walking in. Yeah, what do you want for Christmas?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't like that they had Santa in it, but
No.
yeah, that was that. This is the first episode of Flux to not feature Carvanista, Swarm, or Joseph Williamson, much to my sadness.
Can't believe they didn't put the Victorian man in it.
Can't believe they
Unbelievable.
didn't force him
He
in
was
again.
he was like the
Make us
only
even more
thing.
confused.
Come on. Just put him in. They were in a tunnel. They could have just put him in, but no.
This is the one that makes sense to have
Yeah,
him be in. And
exactly.
Yet,
Oh God, never
I'm
mind.
glad we didn't see him. He's annoying me a lot.
He's there next week. It's okay.
Yeah, just get that out of the way. Very strange. Of all the really interesting characters to like put in every episode, and they can focus on Joseph Williams and for some
It's
reason.
gonna turn out he's like Rassilon or something like that.
Can you imagine? Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Oh well. And yes, this is finally, this is the first time a victim being killed by the Weeping Angels is shown on screen with the people crumbling to dust.
And I think it was the first time we saw someone get zapped back on screen as well, wasn't it?
We've seen
like-
Amy and Rory get that back.
Oh yeah, we did see Amy get zapped. We didn't. Oh yeah. You are right. Although they did it in a little bit. This was more of a, whoo, whereas they were like a, whoo, if you get what I mean.
No, I don't. But okay.
I know what I mean.
I'm glad you do.
But yes, the crumbling. Like I felt nothing when they died. I was very much Peggy in that situation. I was like, that's a shame. Yes, as they're crying her eyes out, like, oh, I can't believe they're dead.
That was so strange. Like emotionless when Grace is lying dead on the floor after falling off.
Yeah.
She was actually nice and good.
Yeah.
And then these people are like, I'm
so sad.
You know full well that they were horrible to her.
Yeah, you even say you have the conversation with Dan to say they're not nice people.
It was just one of those things that they were written because they knew they were going to be killed, and you don't really need to like them. But again, it's kind of 2 days away from retirement-esque levels of trying to make the audience feel something.
But yeah, well, never mind. I feel like we kind of leaned on the negatives a fair bit then, but I enjoyed this more than last week, so I feel that if people get the impression that we're bashing this episode, I don't want that to be the case. I want it to be known that I like this episode.
It's just more so the little things. I think there's just a lot of little things, but in general, like when it needs to succeed, I think it does.
Yeah. So with that being said, what are you rating it out of 10?
I think I'll go for 8.
Same.
Yeah,
also
snap.
8.
Yes.
Which is
So it's like 0.5. Yeah, 0.5 less for me than
0.5 more for me.
Oh.
But
yeah.
So I was just looking at my sort of notes. I do have again some things where I've written the plot to try and make sense of it. So I put quantum extraction takes a time/place out like Jadoon on the moon. That's how I'm picturing it. They effectively just scooped it up and took it somewhere else. What if we take the village and move it somewhere else?
Oh my
God.
I hope that's a meme somewhere.
I'm gonna make it now. Just put a weeping angel face on Patrick. And again, the angel in the mind, it was always there. But if it was always there, they do say, it must have taken a lot of effort to control the TARDIS from the mind. And he's like, yes. I was like, okay. All right then.
Great.
But yeah,
then
how did he get in the time stream? That kind of thing, that was skipped over, which maybe you just don't need it. Maybe just say that it got in. Yeah. Fine, but it didn't necessarily need to be there. And were there angels always in the village? And then did the division just sort of roll in and be like, hey, we're looking for someone. Have you seen them? And I also like the idea that the division could have other aliens in it. Maybe the Ood we see is going to be part of division.
Yeah.
Is there a division Dalek? Maybe, who knows? Division Sidemen, Silurians, all that kind of stuff. It'll be interesting to see if at all they explore that. I think it would make a cool shot if they did a whole episode like based around the division and we see all of these operatives, but they're all different species, similar to the Pandorica Opens. But you never know. They could tie it back and say the division was behind the Pandorica. Because why not at that point? A whole mix of aliens, a whole load of them. I know, it could then that could then link to, the Silence being division, and this branch of Time Lords were trying to stop Gallifrey coming back because whatever. That's probably not going to happen. I'm probably thinking too much into it, and now I'll be furious if that doesn't happen.
If my theory is wrong, then it's
if
bad.
I am wrong, the show is on. There we go. Who knows? Oh, what terrible! He'll come back in a minute. See, it just couldn't take the anger. It was like, oh, you've had too much.
Too much. There you go.
You've had too much.
There you go. You're in darkness for a moment.
It was like, no, you're too powerful. Turn off.
No, he's too angry.
Too angry.
Shut it down.
But yes.
It'd be great if your camera turned on again. There's a weeping angel behind you.
And now my screen is. That would scare me. Like what with Stephen Moffat in his video, where he's like, "Oh, sorry, I've spoiled it." And
yeah,
like,
that was good.
But yes, that's it. We'll leave it before more technical errors plague us once again. We avoided the majority of them this time.
We did.
But yes, unfortunately, there won't be one of these next week as I shall be away. And that means I won't be in Liam's live reaction either. And you can see this week's live reaction on his channel, which I'll link below. But we will be back to discuss the finale, and we'll probably fit some talk in about the next week's episode in that one as well, because I'm hopeful it will all tie together.
Yes.
But yes, there will also be Hawkeye, I think, is coming out tomorrow as of recording. So keep an eye out for them on Liam's channel as well. And we will be back later this week before we go away with Partners in Crime Series 4 of Doctor Who. All that to come. But for now, it's bedtime. So
10 to 6.
I will sleep. It's fine. Yes, we're off to celebrate more Doctor Who for Doctor Who Day.
Yay.
But yes, that's it for today. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.